us and all my relations. My name is Chell Fireheart, and I am here to share with you all about wildcrafting, how wildcrafting has benefited my life and what it can do for you, how you can bring it into your life. I started Sunhorse Wildcraft, a group a few years ago, and that went right along with Sunhorse Apothecary. I learned how to make medicine out of these wild foods and medicine's beneficial plants right out here. And then I wanted to share it with others. So I thought, there's got to be a way that other people can come out here with me into the forest, into the wilderness, which I enjoy so much, and share this with them as well, because this can benefit all of us. So I started the group coming out into different places around Southern Oregon and teaching about all the wild beneficial plants and fungi and a lot of things that we can harvest out here. You're connecting to nature, you're in fresh air, you're in sunshine. The foods that are growing in beneficial soils that are naturally biodynamic out here in the wilderness are nourished with everything that they need to be able to come and nourish us. So getting out to wildcraft is all about finding what's even in your backyard, finding what's right here in Southern Oregon. We're only about 30 minutes from Grants Pass right here. And there's so much up here to be able to use to benefit your life directly as preventative medicine, as a way to build the body and build the system with everything that's going right out here. And that's what wildcrafting means to me. So we're going to talk a little bit about sustainability and wildcrafting ethics and what gives you the authority to be able to go out and do this for yourself in your life. So when we're looking at sustainability of any ecosystem, we want to take a look at the whole environment around us. How does it look? Is it healthy? Is it thriving? Does it have good water? Where is your water coming from for the source that you are going to be harvesting from? That's very important. What are the soils like? Are they healthy? Do they have mycelium? Do they have fungus growing in them? Are the insects healthy in that area? Is there an infestation of insects? Is there too much mold maybe growing on something? So you have to really pay attention to all of these different levels before you go in there and wildcraft it for yourself, because you want to have good, healthy things for yourself, and you want to be sure to leave behind a good, healthy environment. And if it's not, maybe there's something you can do to help it out. As you can see here, we have St. John's wort that is growing definitely in abundance. We have this here, and there's a whole field over behind us too. And it is everywhere this time of year, and I'm sure a lot of you have seen this around. So here is where I would come and harvest a lot of St. John's wort. In fact, I did earlier in the year to get the flowers. But my rule for anything, even when there's a large abundance of it, only take what you need, what you know you're going to be using at home. Don't take something if you end up taking too much and you can't get to it, because all of these things require time at home to process them and prepare them for use. And there's steps and all of that. So make sure to take only what you need of any single plant and any ecosystem. Kind of a general rule is to only take a third. The saying goes, no matter what you find, always leave some behind. So if I was going to take from a single St. John's wort plant, this is okay to actually take the whole plant, because this plant dies back in the winter time and goes back to the roots. So you could take this whole plant. If I was harvesting from this beautiful Douglas fir tree here, which is quite large, I definitely would harvest more than a third. But you can see this smaller tree over here. Now this one, I could easily impact it greatly if I took over a third of its fresh new needles, which are delicious, by the way. So watch your environment, be aware of sustainability, and then knowing that you are able to go out and do this on BLM and Forest Service land, public lands. You are able to go out and harvest for personal use at home, not for commercial use. And they limit your amount, something like no more than 14 to 16 little grocery bag size of things. Well, that's easy to come up here and supply your kitchen, supply your medicine cabinet with everything that you need. That's a lot to be able to harvest. Of a St. John's wort plant, you might take just these two flowers, just these two tops, to make a tincture for yourself at home. If you were taking for your family, maybe you would take a full half-gallon jar full or a pint full. But that's all you need for the year. So you think about that with each plant and really do your research into this. If there's a way that you can help the plants to grow better from the area that is giving you so much benefit to your life, help by giving back. Like once these St. John's wort plants get seed and the seeds are ripe, I would pluck the seed and I would help scatter them, you know, or maybe I would take them to another area where the St. John's wort needs some help. Or if there's a plant that gets knocked over by somebody else, which I've seen often, especially our wonderful trees, give it some help if you can help it back up. And give thanks back. Okay, so there's a few things that you need to know about wildcrafting and taking care of yourself in the wild and what you're going to need. First is a first aid kit. We don't have it here, I have mine in the car, but definitely get a first aid kit. And then just being aware in the wild, take the things that you need. For wildcrafting and wild foraging, typically, you definitely want to bring water. First thing, make sure you've got good shoes, the proper clothing, and trimmers, because there's a lot of plants that you can't just quite pull off or break off. It damages the plant too much. So definitely bring a good pair of trimmers. That way you can trim a plant off at the proper spot while leaving the rest of it intact. A rope. Always good. Sometimes I'll get big bundles of herbs and I'll need a rope to tie it up, or you need a rope maybe for an emergency, but usually I'll use it just to tie up the herbs. A whistle, that's definitely for emergencies. Good idea to have on there. Paper bags. I love the paper bags for storing herbs in, especially, you know, when I'm just getting the smaller amounts for personal use at home. They keep the herbs dry and clean and separate. And then plastic is not great because plastic will cause the herbs to sweat. And then when you get home, you can actually, on quite a few herbs, just leave them in your bag, put them on a drying net, sit them in your windowsill, not in the sun, but just in a good ventilated place where those herbs can dry. And sometimes I'll turn the bag over and kind of shake it. But if you don't have it packed in there, you can dry the herbs right in the bag. A good knife. This one is a great one that I like to use for digging. It's a great digging tool. So the knife is definitely more, I use it for a digging tool. This one's got a blunt edge on it and a saw edge. So if there's anything that I need to use that for digging up roots, it's definitely valuable for digging up roots. So you want something like that for your root plant and to cut off any, you know, larger branches if you were doing that with trees. And then a good bag, you know, just get a good bag. This is really lightweight. It's kind of waterproof, thin material, something that's not too heavy if you're just going out for a little short trip. And just have something that fits good, that's going to be comfortable, and leave your hands free so you can really forage for things. So that's a few of the things that you really need, and just being aware when you're out there, look around. You know, if there's an ant nest or an ant hill close by, don't stop there and have your lunch, you know. Watch for the bees, you know. In a lot of these places there will be like a beehive, you know, and they'll be down in there. So if you're just watching when you walk, pay attention to your feet, watch for poison oak, watch for the plants that are around you, and just be aware, cultivate those senses, and you can easily stay safe. So the first plant that I'm excited to introduce you all to is our state tree, the Douglas fir. A lot of people don't realize how amazing this tree is for us. It is power-packed in vitamin C. So you can come along and identify this tree really easily by its needles. See, the needles come out all the way around the stem, poking out all the way around. They're not flat, they're not just on the bottom. One of the best and quickest, easiest ways to identify this fir tree. The needles are short, whereas pine trees are long. So the fir trees are short. I always think of it like the fur of an animal on a fir tree. And then the cones here that you can see, they're smaller cones and they have these little whiskers. And so that's a really easy way to identify this tree. There are no toxic lookalikes. There's no fir tree in the state of Oregon that you could go wrong with eating, but this one is super easy to identify. And on this one here, I want to point out that I'm not going to be harvesting this part of it because it does have a little bit of a bug infection, maybe a little bit of a fungus growing there with those little white spots. So I'm going to leave that part be because I'm not sure what it is, and I don't want to eat something that I don't know what it is. I want to look for a part of the tree that's nice and healthy and green and doesn't have any of that stuff. And one of the best things to harvest on the Douglas fir is just the younger tips. So this isn't springtime. Springtime is when you get the softest fir tips that are really power packed, but at any time of the year, They are full of nutrients and vitamins and minerals for us, and again, high in vitamin C. So I would take this one here, and then I'll take this one right here. And actually, let me show you here. How I'll cut these off is actually all the way down to the stem right there. So I cut it down, rather than cutting it halfway off, cutting it all the way down. That way it doesn't leave as much of a branch sticking out to collect any hazards for the tree. So I cut off a couple of them, and then you can just eat them directly. They're absolutely delicious. They're great in pestos, great on salads, great added into a lot of things. And like I said, they're power-packed in vitamin C. So what that does for us is it actually helps our body to produce more melanin. And what the melanin does is it helps you to have more resistance to the sun and the harmful UV rays. So it actually keeps you from getting much of a sunburn. Along with many other things, look it up online. There's a lot of information. And one thing that I really like to do with it, other than eating it fresh on the trail, which I highly recommend you try, is putting it directly into water. And this is something that I do all the time for Sunhorse Wildcraft on the groups. I always bring water and tell everybody else it's the easiest way for you to get these wild beneficial plants directly into your life. So when you add the plants into water, I just get a nice quart jar, and I'll put this Douglas fir right in there, and I'll squish it up a little bit. And then once I get this full of plants, what I would do is let it sit in the sun for an hour. And what this does, of course, it gets the vitamin C from the Douglas fir in there, and it also creates natural electrolytes in your water. So it adds the right sodium, the right levels of nutrients that you need for natural electrolytes. Your body will naturally absorb the molecules of the water better when it has the infusion of herbs in there. The next plant I want to share with you all is St. John's wort. This beautiful flower has come up everywhere all over Southern Oregon this year, and it's one that everyone has been talking about. St. John's wort is amazing in its ability to help our serotonin and dopamine levels. It raises the mood, boosts all the levels that you need in your body to have a much more positive mindset and open your heart. So it's really easy to recognize by its bright yellow flowers, and it has the 5 petals around there. And then if you really look at it, you can see that there's little tiny dots around the margins of each petal on the flowers. And then when you turn it over and you look at the underside of the leaf, you will also see, like that one right there, you'll see the dots on the underside of the leaf as well. And so that is one key identifying feature of the St. John's wort that clearly identifies it from any tansy ragwort or other ragweed that you might confuse it with, or any other daisies. Daisies will have many, many petals around the flower. And then the next thing is getting the taste and the smell. So all these plants, when you come out, really get in tune with them. See what they have to tell you, to tell your nose. Do you like the smell? That really tells you a lot about whether it's right for you or not. Do you like the taste of it? Again, see what your mouth tells you. If this is the first time you've eaten some wild foods, one of the general rules is to take a nibble, like that, spit it out, wait 20 minutes. So you wait to see if your mouth is tingly, if your throat is itchy, if your tummy just doesn't like it. St. John's wort is a really easy one, easy to identify, and again, it's really abundant this year. So good for us. There's many other high benefits for you, so check it out. And when I come out to harvest this one, the plants will die back every year and go back to the roots. So you could harvest the whole top, but this one has already started to go to seed. So I've harvested the fresh tops of another one. I can use this whole plant to put into salad, which I really do like, or I can dry it out to use in any of a tincture, like an alcohol tincture, apple cider vinegar tincture. The alcohol tincture is beautiful because it turns this bright orange, like this deep orange color. It's just beautiful and so good for you. And again, you can use it fresh or dried. The whole plant is edible and usable, also topically in different ways. In this one here, I would leave the seed tops to let that seed out for others if I wanted to take some of the seed tops home to be able to cultivate it in my own garden. I would cut it here, and then I'd hang that upside down to let those seeds ripen and be able to use at home. Otherwise, I come along, if I'm wanting just to use the flower, I'll pluck the flowers right off of there and put those to dry separately so I can have just the flowers. So for the St. John's wort to put into your living water, I would just use these 2 bundles here. That's a good amount, and I can put them right in there, kind of fold them over, and I'll kind of crush them up just a little bit again, getting the essential volatile oils right in there. And you know, I call this living water because it gets the living essence of the plant in the water as well. Another plant I want to share with you all is mullein. Mullei's definitely one that many people recognize that grow in Southern Oregon. You'll see it commonly along roadsides, along freshly turned soil, construction sites. It's one of the first plants that grows after the soils have been disturbed. And it grows really well in drought conditions and in our soils around here that can be really high in the serpentine and those qualities. So it's an amazing plant to have around because it really helps the other plants to be able to come in. You can see how many seed tops are on it, and like this one here has already matured seeds, and if you break open each one, you'll see that they are just full of lots and lots of tiny little seeds. So really seeds out really well. The main part you want to use on the mullein is the flower, the flowering tops. You can eat the flowers directly, although they can be a little bit better put into a tincture. You wouldn't want to eat the leaf directly because there are fine hairs on the mullein that can somewhat irritate the throat. So the best thing to do with this plant is to make it into a tea or a tincture. It's not as much for a direct food. Tea or a tincture, or using it in some way where it has been processed. The amazing things about this plant make it well worth it, and you're definitely going to want to use this on a regular basis. This is a plant that you can use all the time. It's very immune boosting and specifically helps the lungs. It's a natural expectorant and helps the lungs, the airways in the lungs, and those fine little hairs that you have in your lungs. It helps them to clear out. And how incredible is that? We all need that right now, especially going into the fall season and with things that are going on in our world. So check out mullein. This is the great time of year to be able to come and harvest it. You won't be able to harvest it much past this. As you can see, these ones are even starting to get a little on, getting a little yellowy. Check it out. Like this one, it's had quite a few bugs on it. It's got some bug spots, some bug-eaten spots, so I'll leave that one. But I'll come through here and try to get some of the other leaves that are a little cleaner. And now this plant will totally die back, so you don't have to trim these off any special way. You can just pull the leaves off by quick little pull down. Sometimes it'll pull some of the plant off, or you can just pop it up. If it was younger in the season and it hadn't flowered already, I would definitely use my trimmers to carefully cut these off. Mullein is a 2-year cycle plant. The first year you will see it growing as just a rosette on the ground low, and it won't have the stalk, it won't flower until the second year. So these are second year plants where they have grown up. You can use both plants, first year, second year. You can use the plant at any time of the year for its benefits. There's a lot of people that also swear by smoking it, and which I actually have tried, and I had a bit of a lung inflammation and congestion. And it works as a smoke or as a smudge, which is wonderful because then you just get a little bit, or as a tea, and it pulls the stuff right up out of your lungs. There is tons of mullein around here, so you can't really use too much of it. Is to use it for seed starting. So harvest it in the spring when the leaves are fresh and not dried, but fresh leaves, and you just get a little damp. And even now, if you were going to start some seeds for your winter greenhouse, you get them a little damp and use them like paper towels for seed starting. It's a great way. They're very antibacterial and just so good for you. If I wanted to take this whole thing home, I would cut it down all the way down at the base. And use, say these leaves were all nice and fresh and healthy, which I find on a lot of plants. I would just take the whole thing, and if the seeds needed to finish ripening, I could hang it upside down, to ripen those seeds and have plenty of seeds for my garden for next year. So go check out mullein. I'm sure you've seen it around, and enjoy all the benefits that it has. So I'm going to add the mullein to this living water. Our sun tea has Douglas fir and the St. John's wort, and putting the mullein in, I've got this whole top. I've looked at it for buggies, make sure there's not any little ones in there. They like to kind of get in there, and then I'll just put it right in, crush it a little bit, get the nice leaf. The leaves are great for that, and put it right in there and add to your tea. And here we have the famous elderberry. Elderberry, and of all of its many ways, the main thing that it helps us with is boosting our immune health, boosting our lung health, really helping fight any kind of viral infection, any flu, any cold, respiratory symptoms that you have. This is your go-to. And the really cool thing about it is the fruits really start coming on this time of year in early fall and all through the fall. And you can get it and harvest what you need for the winter flu season. There's 2 elderberries that actually grow. I have not seen the red elderberry around here, but I've heard it does grow around here. So you want to pay attention. The red elderberry is totally poisonous to people. So if it's red, leave it there. But otherwise, if you've got these nice purple berries, that's your blue elderberry that is really beneficial for us. The whole plant, the rest of the plant has some toxins in it. You wouldn't want to eat the leaf or the stems. They can actually produce, help you to induce vomiting and cause diarrhea and stomach problems. So don't eat any other part of this plant, even the berries that are raw. Your main potent medicine is when these berries get cooked down. So the main thing that you're going to want to know is find that purple blueberry, identify your tree, and then harvest the berries. So these ones here, what I would do after I get a good identification on them is I would cut these back to the next node, because this tree will keep growing. So if I cut it back to the next node, like right here, or all the way back even to the main stem, even right here would be okay. And then take these berries and I'll put them actually in the freezer. The reason for doing this is taking the fresh berries and putting them in the freezer helps them to detach from the stem much easier. And you would cook them down. So cook them down just with some water, right in a pot on low heat. So really, really low heat. Cook it down to where your water has evaporated, and then just strain it out and kind of really squeeze them out. Get the seeds out. You don't want to have those seeds left in there. You can take out the skins, but otherwise that's how you would process to get that elderberry juice. You'll see these berries have a whiteness on them, and that whiteness that you see is a natural yeast. So that is one of their benefits. It provides us with that natural yeast that really helps the gut biome and helps our health, which in turn is what helps our immune system. You don't need much. I would take maybe, this much here to take for just myself to have a wintertime little medicine bottle, because you would take maybe a teaspoon, maybe a tablespoon of the elderberry juice directly in the wintertime when you really need it. It doesn't take a whole lot, and it gives you that boost that you need. So go find out about it. There's so much more about this plant that is amazing, but that gives you the basics, and empower yourself. Pay attention to what you're doing out there. Pay attention to how you're using it when you harvest it. Always give thanks for that abundance, and enjoy the elderberry. So I started Sunhorse Apothecary several years ago because I really wanted to feel this health for myself. I saw how these medicines changed my life drastically. Wild beneficial plants, adding them into my life every day. So then after Sunhorse Apothecary, I started the group Sunhorse Wildcraft. So we go out every Sunday. I encourage you guys to come out with me every Sunday and check it out. I teach about all this stuff, just like what you've learned today. We harvest everything along the trails. You can find more information on the group from Facebook, Sunhorse Wildcraft, or right on my website, sunhorseapothecary.com, right under the events page. And it'll give you all the details that you need to know to come along one of the walks. We do them every Sunday, usually starting right around 10 a.m. and they're about 3 hours, and they're easy walks to be able to keep up on. And we harvest. I make sure everybody takes something home. There's always the wild tea. I bring some along for everybody just so you can really get a taste. The best thing you can do is use these plants that we harvest along the walks and put them right into your living water, get those natural electrolytes. And then another way to use it, which I teach about on the walks, how to use these things, because it's not only identifying them, that's your big hurdle to step over first, then it's how to use them in your day-to-day life. One of the first things I created was the wild balm, and this one has 7 different wild herbs in it, all hand-picked to nourish your body, nourish your skin, and really help with so many different things. I sell this every Saturday at the Grants Pass Saturday Market. I give free samples there every Saturday. So if you want to come and check it out, come and try a free sample, see what your skin tells you about it. The other easy way to be able to use all of this is in smudging. Smudging will clear the air of viruses, bacteria, mold spores. It's really incredible what it does for our lungs. This one has mullein on it, and mullein is a natural expectorant. I also have put on here incense, cedar, and calendula, and they both have just amazing properties for your lungs, your mind, your health. Easy ways to incorporate these herbs into your health and into your daily life. If you need a resource for some wild plants that you have and you have some questions, use me as a resource. Reach out to me. I'll try to help you as best as I can to identify those plants and see how it can help you. So check out the Sunhorse Wildcraft group. Check out Sunhorse Apothecary every Saturday at the market, and let's continue to share this with everybody around, with our community, and connect into all of this.
Spiral Living Center is a 501c3 nonprofit committed to promoting sustainable living skills in the Illinois Valley since 2006. For more info on our work, visit spiralliving.org.